I still remember the feeling of utter foolishness as I checked the email. My friends were right. This was absurd. I had just spent $100 on a random plane ticket to a city I'd never intended to visit, all because I needed a break from my soul-crushing routine. But when I landed, my little act of rebellion immediately turned into something far bigger, something dangerous. I thought I was looking for a distraction, but instead, I stumbled into a generations-old family feud, found myself holding a crucial piece of a multi-million-dollar puzzle, and walked away rich, while those who scoffed at my wasteful trip were left gaping. Was my luck purely accidental, or was destiny simply waiting for me on a cheap, anonymous flight? Tell me honestly, would you have followed a suspicious trail in a strange city if you knew it could lead to immense wealth, even at great personal risk? My name is Marcus, and up until 6 months ago, my life was a picture of comfortable, mind-numbing predictability. I was 35, a mid-level accountant at a large firm, living in a nice, but ultimately beige, apartment. My career was solid, my finances were stable, and my prospects were, well, predictable. I had a group of friends who were equally established and equally judgmental about anything that deviated from the plan. My biggest source of stress wasn't risk. It was the sheer boredom of knowing exactly where I'd be in 10 years. I needed an explosion in my life, a dramatic shake-up, but I didn't know how to initiate it. That's where the blind destination travel company came in. I saw the ad late one night. Pay a nominal fee, and they send you, completely randomly, anywhere in the world they have a cheap deal for. It was reckless, absurd, and exactly what my soul craved. I chose the cheapest option, a $100 round trip ticket to an undisclosed city in the continental U.S. I kept it a secret until the notification arrived. The destination was Omaha, Nebraska ***. Not exactly the exotic locale I had vaguely hoped for, but I immediately embraced it. When I told my friends, their reaction was swift and loud. Omaha, for $100, you're going to eat corn and stare at cows, Marcus. My friend David scoffed. You blew a whole weekend and $100 for a city you could drive to in a day. What a waste. My mother was equally concerned. Are you sure this isn't some sort of scam, dear? Just stay home and catch up on your taxes. The ridicule was heavy, reinforcing my feeling that I was an idiot who couldn't handle his own life, let alone an adventure. I flew out anyway, fueled by stubborn defiance. Omaha, I discovered, was a perfectly nice city, but initially, my friends seemed right. I spent the first day touring museums and eating surprisingly good steaks. On the second day, I decided to visit a large, historic city park. I sat down on an old, elaborate cast-iron bench beneath a large, spreading elm tree, enjoying the unexpected serenity. It was there that the predictable narrative of my life took a sharp, almost unbelievable turn. As I settled onto the bench, my hand brushed against something unusual tucked into the crevice of the bench's wooden slats. It was a small, tightly folded piece of paper, thick and brittle, clearly old. It wasn't litter. I unfolded it carefully. It was a newspaper clipping, yellowed with age, dated **1985, The headline was stark. ***, a prominent businessman Thomas Sterling vanishes. $5 million estate frozen. The article detailed the baffling disappearance of a wealthy local entrepreneur, Thomas Sterling, the founder of Sterling Agricultural Equipment. He vanished without a trace, leaving behind a massive, unresolved estate and a deeply fractured family. Crucially, the clip was heavily annotated in elegant, faded ink. There were circles around names, arrows pointing to dates, and one chilling note scrawled across the bottom. Asterisk asterisk, the key is in the clock. He always trusted the clock. Asterisk asterisk, my heart hammered in my chest. This wasn't a local history piece. This felt like a clue. I felt a surge of adrenaline I hadn't felt since I was a kid sneaking out past curfew. I knew I couldn't just hand this over. The annotations were clearly intended for a specific person, a family member, and the potential reward for solving a 30-year-old mystery was too great to ignore. I immediately checked into a different hotel and spent the next 48 hours researching the Sterling family. What I found was a tragedy wrapped in bitterness. Thomas Sterling had 2 children, a daughter, Clara, who was a quiet librarian and had been estranged from her father for years, and a son, Victor, who was a notorious local gambler and had been fiercely battling his sister for control of the frozen assets since the disappearance. The entire family legacy, estimated at over $5 million, a much larger sum back then, was tied up in complicated trusts and wills that couldn't be executed without confirmation of Thomas Sterling's death or his location. The disappearance had effectively ruined everyone, fueling decades of legal bitterness between Clara and Victor. The note, asterisk asterisk, the key is in the clock. Asterisk asterisk had to be the key to Thomas's true will or a death certificate. I found pictures of the old Sterling estate, now dilapidated but still owned by the estate and under legal lock-down. I focused on the one recurring architectural element mentioned in the articles, the massive, custom-built grandfather clock in the main hall. I needed to get inside the estate. I considered calling Clara, the daughter, but Victor was likely watching her every move. I needed a distraction. I found the Sterling family's former attorney, an old man now retired. I called him, pretending to be a documentary filmmaker doing a retrospective on the Thomas Sterling disappearance. I explained that I needed to film all inside the estate to get the feel of the mystery. The old lawyer, flattered by the idea of a documentary, agreed to meet me at the property the next day to let me inside. So that's the situation I was in. My $100 mystery flight had led me to the potential solution to a famous cold case, but I was about to break into a legally sealed multi-million-dollar estate using a flimsy disguise. Before I tell you what I found inside that massive grandfather clock, and what I chose to do with the information, I want you to pause and comment below what you would have done in my shoes. Would you have gone through with the risky break-in, or would you have simply dropped the whole thing and gone back to your boring accounting job? The next day, I met the old attorney, Mr. Davies, at the estate. Black gates, peeling paint, and a general air of decay met us. Mr. Davies was rambling nostalgically about Thomas Sterling as he unlocked the heavy front door. The interior was dark, musty, and shrouded in dust covers. In the main hall, standing like a ghostly sentinel, was the magnificent, ornate grandfather clock ***. It was nearly 10 feet tall, dark wood, intricately carved. A true piece of craftsmanship. Mr. Davies was distracted, pointing out old paintings and architecture, giving me the perfect cover. I casually walked toward the clock, pretending to adjust my camera settings. My heart was pounding like a drum solo. I ran my hands over the cold, polished wood. Nothing. I checked the base, the sides, the glass face. Nothing obvious. I thought about the clue. He always trusted the clock. Maybe it was inside, in the mechanism. I opened the large bottom panel where the pendulum would swing. Everything was thick with dust. I ran my hand along the internal wooden wall, deep inside the dark recess. My fingers brushed against a tiny, almost invisible wooden latch that was cleverly disguised within the grain of the wood. I pressed it. With a soft click, a small, hidden compartment at the very base of the clock face swung open. Inside, there was a small, sealed, plastic envelope. The contents were shocking. It contained two things: a laminated, official *** death certificate ** for Thomas Sterling, showing he had died of a sudden, natural heart attack on a specific date, exactly 35 years ago, and a ** handwritten letter ** addressed to Clara, my one true heir. The letter explained everything. Thomas hadn't vanished. He had died suddenly while preparing to run away. He had discovered his son, Victor, was stealing company funds and planned to disinherit him completely. But before he could legally finalize a new will, he suffered the fatal heart attack. Knowing Victor would destroy any evidence that proved his father's intent to disinherit him, Thomas used his final moments of consciousness to hide his existing, older will and the death certificate inside the clock, hoping Clara would eventually find it. He wrote the clue on the newspaper clipping, intending for a trusted friend to find it, but it had slipped from his hand and fallen into the bench crack. The death certificate and the letter were the keys to unlocking the entire estate. With the certificate, the estate could be formally closed, and the original will, which heavily favored Clara and established a substantial trust for her children, could be executed, effectively cutting Victor off from the bulk of the money. I had the official, legal, and incontrovertible truth that Victor had spent 35 years terrorizing his sister and manipulating the courts, all while his father's final wishes were hidden in the clock. I thanked Mr. Davies, promising him a cameo, and immediately called Clara. I didn't tell her everything, only that I had found a crucial document that could resolve her father's estate immediately. We met at a neutral, public location. When I presented her with the death certificate and her father's letter, Clara didn't cry. She collapsed in utter, silent relief, the burden of 35 years of legal limbo and family cruelty finally lifting. The aftermath was exactly the explosion my life needed, but on a grand, dramatic scale. Clara's legal team moved swiftly. With the death certificate, they finalized the estate closure. Victor's decades of legal maneuvers collapsed in days. The original will was executed, making Clara the primary heir and finally freeing the $5 million estate, now valued with investments at over $20 million. Victor was furious. He tried to sue me, claiming I was a co-conspirator, but my story was backed up by the unimpeachable evidence: a dated death certificate and an authenticated, deceased man's letter. Victor was investigated for his company theft and quickly faded into legal obscurity, losing everything he had schemed for. Clara, the rightful heir, was incredibly grateful. She publicly credited me with solving the mystery. My reward was a formal, substantial financial gift for my role in resolving the estate, amounting to a phenomenal $2 million. It was a massive finder's fee, completely tax-free and legal. I returned home not as the same predictable accountant who left, but as a genuine, certified millionaire. I paid off my student loans, bought my mother a retirement home, and quit my job. I started my own independent forensic research firm, specializing in cold cases and complex estates, merging my accounting knowledge with my newfound love for adventure. David and my old friends, they stopped calling my trip a waste. They started asking me how to book a mystery flight of their own, looking at me with undisguised awe. I politely declined their requests for investment advice. The $100 tick, it didn't just take me to Omaha, it took me to my true self. It taught me that sometimes the biggest financial rewards are found not through careful planning, but through reckless curiosity and the courage to follow a gut feeling, even if everyone else calls you a fool. I found my fortune, and I found my purpose, all because of an absurd, random trip to Nebraska. Like this video if you think Thomas Sterling's final plan was ingenious and my reward was well deserved. Subscribe for more stories about cold cases, hidden fortunes, and unpredictable destiny. Share your final thoughts on Victor's fate and the meaning of that newspaper clipping in the comments section below. I'll see you all in the next story.